homeless girl became his escape from arranged wedding, but her secret left Millionaire frozen. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. Your support means everything to this channel. Now let's discover how a desperate millionaire's search for freedom led to the most shocking revelation of his life. The champagne glasses clinked around him, but 28-year-old Marcus Whitmore felt nothing but suffocation. The engagement party his father had orchestrated was in full swing. Wealthy guests mingling, celebrating a union that felt more like a business transaction than love. "You look handsome tonight, darling," Victoria said, adjusting his tie with manicured fingers. She was everything his father wanted. Beautiful, connected, from the right family. Everything Marcus didn't want in his life. His phone buzzed. Another message from his father's lawyer about the merger details that would be finalized once the wedding happened. Marcus felt the walls closing in, his entire future mapped out without his consent. "I need some air," he muttered, stepping away from Victoria's surprised face. Outside the ballroom, Marcus loosened his bow tie and walked into the cool Manhattan night. He needed to think, needed to find a way out of this golden prison his father had built around him. That's when he saw her. Sitting on the steps of a closed coffee shop, wrapped in a torn blanket, was a young woman who couldn't have been older than 22. Her dark hair was tangled, her clothes worn, but there was something in her eyes, a quiet strength that struck him immediately. She looked up as he approached, wariness flickering across her face. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked, his voice gentler than he'd used all evening. "Just trying to stay warm," she replied, pulling the blanket tighter. "Don't worry, I'll move along if this is your building." No, wait. An idea began forming in Marcus's mind. Desperate, maybe crazy, but suddenly crystal clear. "What's your name?" "Emma," she said cautiously. Marcus pulled out his wallet, but instead of offering money, he sat down beside her on the cold steps. "Emma, I have a proposition that might sound insane, but I need your help. And maybe I can help you too." Emma studied his expensive suit, the Rolex on his wrist. "What kind of help?" "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for a few weeks. Someone my family would never expect. Someone who would completely derail their plans." He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "I can offer you a place to stay, food, clothes, and money. All you have to do is act like you care about me in front of my family." Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing the surreal offer. "Why me?" "Because you're real," Marcus said simply. "And because I'm drowning in a life that isn't mine." Something in his tone made Emma believe him. She'd been on the streets for 6 months, surviving day by day, and this strange man in an expensive suit was offering her a lifeline. "How do I know you're not dangerous?" she asked. Marcus handed her his business card and phone. "Call anyone on my contact list. Look me up online. I'm Marcus Whitmore, and I'm probably more desperate than dangerous right now." Emma glanced at the card, recognizing the name from business headlines. This was real. "What exactly would I have to do?" she asked. "Be yourself. Let me introduce you to my family. Attend a few events with me. Make them believe that I've fallen for someone completely outside their world." Marcus's voice carried a note of hope he hadn't felt in months. Emma looked at the warm lights of the hotel lobby across the street, then back at this man who seemed as lost as she was, just in a different way. "One condition," she said finally. "If I do this, I want the truth from you. No lies about why you really need this." Marcus nodded, relief flooding his features. "Deal." Neither of them realized that Emma's truth would soon change everything. 3 days later, Emma stood in front of a mirror in Marcus's penthouse apartment, barely recognizing herself. The designer dress fit perfectly, her hair was styled, and for the first time in months she felt human again. "You clean up nice," Marcus said, appearing behind her in the reflection. He looked nervous, more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "So do you," Emma replied, adjusting the necklace he'd given her to borrow. "Are you sure about this?" "Your family is going to hate me." "That's exactly the point." Marcus straightened his jacket. "My father expects me to marry Victoria Hamilton next month. When he sees I'm with someone he'd never approve of, maybe he'll realize he can't control my life anymore." Emma turned to face him, Someone like me, you mean? A homeless girl with no pedigree. Marcus's expression softened. I didn't mean it like that, Emma. I meant someone real. Someone who hasn't been shaped by their world of expectations and social climbing. The truth was, over the past 3 days, Marcus had been surprised by Emma's intelligence, her quick wit, and the way she listened, really listened, when he talked about feeling trapped in his own life. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. The restaurant was everything Emma had expected. Crystal chandeliers, servers in white gloves, and conversations conducted in the low murmurs of people who'd never worried about their next meal. Marcus's father, Richard Whitmore, was already seated when they arrived, his sharp eyes immediately fixed on Emma, taking in everything from her second-hand shoes to the way she held herself. "Father, I'd like you to meet Emma," Marcus said, his hand steady on her back. "Miss..." Richard's voice was ice. "Emma Carson," she replied, extending her hand with more confidence than she felt. Richard shook it briefly, his disapproval obvious. "And how did you and my son meet, Miss Carson?" Emma glanced at Marcus, who gave her an encouraging nod. "They'd rehearsed this. We met outside the Ritz," she said simply. "I was having a difficult night and Marcus was kind enough to help." "How charitable of him," Richard replied, the words sharp enough to cut. "And what is it that you do for work?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Emma felt her cheeks burn, but Marcus's hand found hers under the table. "I'm between opportunities right now," Emma answered honestly. "I see." Richard's smile was predatory. "Marcus, might I have a word with you privately?" As Marcus followed his father toward the bar, Emma sat alone at the table, overhearing fragments of their heated conversation. Words like embarrassment, reputation, and that girl drifted back to her. When Marcus returned, his jaw was tight with anger, but his eyes were gentle when they met hers. "Everything okay?" Emma asked. "Perfect," Marcus said, though his voice carried an edge. "He's exactly as predictable as I thought he'd be." What Marcus didn't tell Emma was what his father had just said. "End this ridiculous charade, or I'll make sure that girl regrets ever meeting our family." As they left the restaurant, Emma felt eyes following them, whispers starting before they'd even reached the door. "Your father really hates me," Emma observed as they walked to Marcus's car. "He hates that he can't control this," Marcus corrected. "But Emma, there's something you should know. He's not going to make this easy for us. Are you prepared for that?" Emma looked at him. This man who'd saved her from the streets, who was trusting her with his desperate plan. What she wasn't prepared for was how protective she was starting to feel about him. "I can handle your father," she said. "The question is, can you handle what comes next?" Marcus started the car, unaware that Emma's words carried a weight he couldn't yet understand. In her purse, hidden beneath the lipstick and wallet he'd bought her, was a letter that would soon turn their entire arrangement upside down. 2 weeks into their arrangement, Marcus was beginning to realize that Emma wasn't just playing a role anymore, and neither was he. She'd moved into his guest room, and her presence had transformed his sterile penthouse into something that actually felt like home. "You know, for a fake girlfriend, you make excellent coffee," Marcus said, joining her on the balcony where she stood watching the sunrise over Central Park. "One of my many hidden talents," Emma replied, but there was something distant in her voice that morning. Marcus had noticed she'd been quieter lately, especially after they'd received the invitation to his father's annual charity gala, the event where Victoria Hamilton would undoubtedly make her presence known. "Emma, about tonight," Marcus began. "I know. Victoria will be there. Your father will try to humiliate me. The entire New York elite will be watching to see if the homeless girl can handle their world." Emma's voice was steady, but Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders. What he didn't know was that Emma had spent the previous night awake, staring at the letter she still hadn't told him about, the letter that changed everything about who she really was. That evening, the Metropolitan Museum was transformed into a glittering ballroom. Emma wore a navy dress that Marcus had insisted on buying, and she moved through the crowd with a grace that surprised even him. "She's certainly beautiful," Victoria Hamilton said, appearing beside Marcus like an elegant viper. Though I have to wonder what she's really after. Maybe she's after the same thing you are, Marcus replied coolly. Victoria's laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, darling, I doubt that very much. You see, I know something about your little project that you don't. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, his father's voice boomed across the microphone, calling for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight for our annual Children's Hospital benefit, Richard Whitmore began. This cause is particularly close to our family's heart, as we believe every child deserves a chance at a bright future, regardless of their circumstances. Emma felt the irony like a physical blow. Here was a man who'd spent 2 weeks trying to destroy her for not meeting his standards, speaking about giving children chances. However, Richard continued, his eyes finding Emma in the crowd. We must be careful about who we allow into our lives, especially when significant charitable donations are at stake. It's come to my attention that someone here tonight has been less than honest about their background. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. What is he doing? He whispered. Richard's smile was triumphant. Miss Emma Carson, would you like to tell us about your real background? Or should I share what my private investigator discovered about your family? The room went silent. Emma felt hundreds of eyes turned toward her. But instead of the shame Richard expected to see, her chin lifted with a dignity that surprised everyone present. Mr. Whitmore, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the room. What exactly did your investigator tell you? Richard's confidence faltered slightly at her calm response, but he pressed on. That you've been homeless for months, living on the streets with no family and no prospects. That you're using my son for his money and connections. Is that all? Emma asked, and something in her tone made Marcus look at her more closely. All? Richard sputtered. Isn't that enough to prove you don't belong in our world? Emma took a deep breath, and Marcus realized she was making a decision that would change everything. You're absolutely right about one thing, Mr. Whitmore, Emma said, her voice growing stronger. I have been homeless. I have been living on the streets. But what your investigator didn't tell you, or perhaps what he didn't dig deep enough to find, is why. She reached into her purse and pulled out the letter that had been haunting her for weeks. My name isn't Emma Carson, she said, and Marcus felt the world shift beneath his feet. My real name is Emma Hamilton, and Victoria, she looked directly at the woman who'd been tormenting her all evening, is my older sister. The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Victoria's face went white as sheet, and Marcus stared at Emma as if seeing her for the first time. That's impossible, Victoria said, her voice shaking. Emma held up the letter. This is from the Hamilton family lawyer, informing me that my grandmother left me half of the Hamilton estate in her will. The half that was supposed to go to Victoria if I couldn't be found. The truth hit the room like a thunderclap. Emma Hamilton, the missing Hamilton heiress who'd been presumed dead, the sister Victoria had spent years erasing from family history. Marcus looked at Emma, his mind reeling. You're one of them. You're from their world. Emma's eyes met his across the silent ballroom, and he saw something there that made his chest tight with fear. No, Marcus, she said quietly. I was never one of them. And after what I've learned about my sister, about this world, I never want to be, but the damage was done. The masquerade was over, and neither Marcus nor Emma was prepared for what would happen next. The silence in Marcus's penthouse was deafening. They'd left the gala immediately after Emma's revelation, but neither had spoken during the tense drive home. Now, standing in his living room, Marcus felt like he was seeing Emma, or whoever she really was, for the first time. Emma Hamilton, he said finally, the name foreign on his tongue. You're Victoria's sister, the missing heiress everyone whispered about. I never wanted you to find out this way, Emma said, still wearing the navy dress that now felt like a costume. I should have told you from the beginning. Told me what? That our entire arrangement was a lie? Marcus's voice was rising, months of family pressure and confusion finally boiling over. That while I thought I was helping a homeless girl escape poverty, you were actually an heiress playing games. Emma's eyes flashed with anger. Playing games? Marcus, I was homeless because Victoria made sure I would be. Do you want to know the real story? Marcus crossed his arms, his expression cold. By all means, enlighten me. Emma took a shaking breath. When our grandmother died 2 years ago, she left half her estate to me, but only if I could be found within 3 years. Victoria and her lawyers spent months trying to prove I was dead, but when they couldn't, they hired people to make sure I disappeared for real. What do you mean? Despite his anger, Marcus was listening. They destroyed my credit, got me fired from every job, had me evicted from my apartment. Victoria's people made sure no one would hire me, that no landlord would rent to me. They wanted me to disappear completely so she could claim my inheritance. Emma pulled out her phone, showing Marcus bank statements, eviction notices, termination letters. Look at the dates. It all started 3 days after the will reading. Victoria systematically destroyed my life to steal what our grandmother left me. Marcus studied the documents, his anger slowly transforming into something else. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Because I didn't trust anyone from your world. And because I was ashamed. Emma's voice broke slightly. Do you know what it's like to go from having a life to sleeping in doorways? Because your own sister wants you gone. But you had that letter from the lawyer. You knew about your inheritance. Why were you still on the streets? Emma laughed bitterly. The lawyer's letter came 2 weeks after I met you. They'd finally tracked me down, but Victoria had already done her damage. Besides, I wasn't sure I wanted that life anymore. Marcus felt his carefully constructed world tilting. What do you mean? I mean that these past weeks with you showed me something I'd never had. Genuine kindness without ulterior motives. You helped me because you saw me as a person, not because of my family name or my bank account. Emma's voice was quiet now. I fell in love with that version of us, Marcus. The version where we were both just trying to escape lives that didn't fit. Before Marcus could respond, his doorbell rang insistently. He looked through the security monitor to see Victoria Hamilton standing in his lobby, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. Speak of the devil, Emma muttered. Marcus let Victoria up, and within minutes she was standing in his living room, her elegant composure cracking. You little bitch, Victoria hissed at Emma. Do you have any idea what you've done? The lawyers are already calling. The press is going to have a field day with this story. Good, Emma replied calmly. Maybe they'll be interested in hearing about how you had me followed, how you bribed my employers, I did what was necessary to protect our family's reputation. Victoria's voice was shrill now. You were always the embarrassment, Emma. Wild, rebellious, never fitting in. Grandmother was wrong to leave you anything. Marcus watched this exchange with growing horror. Victoria, you actually tried to destroy your own sister? Victoria turned to him, her expression calculating. Marcus, darling, you have to understand. Emma has always been unstable. Grandmother left her that money out of guilt, but she was never capable of handling it responsibly. I was protecting her from herself by making her homeless. Marcus's voice was ice. By trying to make her disappear quietly instead of having to commit her to a mental institution, Victoria shot back. Which is still an option, by the way. A young woman who's been living on the streets talking about conspiracy theories, refusing to contact her family. It wouldn't be hard to have her declared incompetent. The threat hung in the air like poison. Emma felt her newfound confidence crumble as she realized Victoria still held all the power. But I have a better solution, Victoria continued, her smile returning. Marcus, you marry me as planned. Emma gets a small trust fund, enough to live quietly somewhere far from New York. Everyone wins. Marcus looked between the two sisters. Victoria, beautiful and vicious, representing everything he'd been trying to escape, and Emma, who'd shown him what honesty and real connection felt like. But now he wasn't sure what was real anymore. Was Emma's feelings for him genuine? Or was she just as calculating as Victoria, playing a longer game for her inheritance? I need time to think, Marcus said finally. Victoria's smile widened. Don't take too long, darling. The lawyers are very eager to resolve this inheritance issue, and I'd hate for Emma to have any unfortunate accidents. While it's still unresolved, after Victoria left, Emma and Marcus stared at each other across a room that suddenly felt miles wide. So what now? Emma asked quietly. Marcus looked at her. This woman who'd become so important to him, who'd lied to him from the very beginning, who was now revealed to be from the exact world he'd been trying to escape. "Now," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "I think you should take your inheritance and your sister's threats seriously. Maybe it's time for you to disappear again, this time on your own terms." Emma felt her heart shatter, but she lifted her chin with the same dignity she'd shown at the gala. "If that's what you want," she said. What neither of them knew was that Victoria's threats weren't empty, and the game they'd all been playing was about to turn deadly. Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window in Marcus's guest room, watching the city lights blur through her tears, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. At sunrise, she made her decision. She couldn't stay and watch Marcus struggle with whether to trust her, and she certainly couldn't let Victoria hurt him because of their family's toxic. You see, she was packing the few belongings she'd acquired when Marcus appeared in the doorway. "You're leaving," he said. "It wasn't a question. It's better this way," Emma replied without looking at him. Victoria was right about one thing. "I don't belong in your world." "I never did." "Emma, wait." Marcus stepped into the room. "I spent all night thinking about everything you said, everything Victoria threatened. And I realized something." Emma paused, a folded shirt in her hands. "I don't care if you're Emma Carson or Emma Hamilton or anyone else," Marcus continued. "The woman I've gotten to know these past weeks, the one who makes terrible jokes while cooking breakfast, who listens to my problems without trying to fix them, who made this place feel like home for the first time ever, that woman is real. I know she is." Emma turned to face him, hope and fear warring in her expression. "But Marcus, Victoria will destroy you if you choose me. She has lawyers, connections, power. She'll make sure your family business suffers. That—" "Let her try," Marcus interrupted. "I'm done letting fear make my choices. The question is, are you ready to fight for this, for us? Because Victoria isn't going to make it easy." Emma was about to answer when both of their phones buzzed simultaneously. Marcus looked at his screen and frowned. "It's a news alert," he said. Then his face went pale. "Emma, you need to see this." The headline read, "Missing Hamilton heiress found living on streets. Sister claims mental instability." Emma read the article with growing horror. Victoria had moved fast, giving interviews to 3 major news outlets claiming Emma was mentally unstable, had been missing by choice, and was now being manipulated by Marcus for his own financial gain. "She's painting you as the victim, and me as the gold digger," Emma said, sinking onto the bed, "and herself as the concerned sister trying to get me help." Marcus's phone rang. His father's name appeared on the screen. "Don't answer it," Emma said quickly. But Marcus was already swiping to accept. "Father, I can explain," Marcus began. Richard's voice was sharp enough to cut through the phone. "Explain? Explain how you've made our family the laughingstock of New York society? Explain how you're now involved in some sordid inheritance scheme with the Hamilton family." "It's not a scheme," Marcus said firmly. Emma Hamilton is clearly disturbed, and you've been taken in by whatever game she's playing. Victoria Hamilton called me this morning. She's willing to resolve this quietly if you come to your senses." Emma could hear every word through the phone. She stood up and walked to the window, feeling trapped all over again. "What does Victoria want?" Marcus asked, though he already suspected he knew. "You marry Victoria as originally planned. Emma gets the mental health treatment she obviously needs. The Hamilton inheritance gets resolved without further scandal. Everyone wins." "Everyone except Emma," Marcus replied coldly. "Emma made her choice when she decided to deceive you and manipulate this situation for her own gain." Richard shot back. "Son, think about this rationally. Victoria Hamilton is offering you exactly what you need. A way out of this mess with your reputation intact." After Marcus hung up, the apartment fell silent. Emma turned from the window, her decision clear in her eyes. "I have to go, Marcus. If I stay, Victoria will destroy both of us. But if I disappear again, she gets what she wants and leaves you alone." "No." Marcus's voice was firm. "I won't let her win like this. There has to be another way." That's when Emma's phone rang. "An unknown number. Miss Hamilton?" The voice was professional, older. "This is James Mitchell, your grandmother's personal attorney." I think we need to meet immediately. There are things about your grandmother's will that Victoria doesn't know. Things that could change everything. Emma looked at Marcus, hope flickering in her chest for the first time since the gala. Things like what? She asked. Like the fact that your grandmother suspected Victoria might try exactly what she's done. She left instructions and evidence that could put your sister in prison for fraud and conspiracy. But we need to move fast. Victoria's people are trying to have you declared incompetent tomorrow morning. Emma felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Tomorrow? The hearing is at 9 a.m. If we're going to fight this, we need to meet tonight. Both of you. Mr. Whitmore's testimony about Victoria's behavior could be crucial. After ending the call, Emma and Marcus looked at each other. The game had just changed completely. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked. Because once we walk into that lawyer's office, we're committed to seeing this through to the end. Emma thought about her grandmother, who'd apparently seen Victoria's true nature long before anyone else. She thought about the past weeks with Marcus, the first time she'd felt truly safe and cared for in years. I'm ready, she said. But Marcus, if we do this, there's no going back. Victoria will come after us with everything she has. Marcus took her hands in his. Then we better make sure we win. Neither of them noticed the black sedan parked across the street, or the telephoto lens focused on Marcus's apartment windows. Victoria's war was just beginning. The law office of Mitchell & Associates felt like a fortress at 8 p.m. All marble floors and imposing leather-bound books. Emma sat across from James Mitchell, her grandmother's lawyer, while Marcus remained standing by the window, tense and alert. Your grandmother was a remarkably perceptive woman. Mitchell began, opening a thick file. She suspected Victoria would try to eliminate you from the inheritance, so she took precautions. He spread photographs across the mahogany table, surveillance photos of Emma being followed, documents showing the coordinated effort to destroy her life, bank records tracing payments to private investigators and the people who'd gotten her fired. She hired her own investigators to document everything Victoria did, Mitchell continued. Every bribe, every illegal interference with your employment, every privacy violation. It's all here. Emma stared at the evidence of her sister's systematic destruction of her life, feeling vindicated and heartbroken simultaneously. But there's more, Mitchell said, pulling out a sealed envelope. Your grandmother also left a video message, to be played only if Victoria contested the will or tried to harm you. The office's large screen flickered to life, and Emma's grandmother appeared, elegant, sharp-eyed, and clearly very ill, but with an unmistakable strength in her voice. Emma, my dear, if you're watching this, it means Victoria has shown her true colors, the recorded image said. I've watched her become increasingly ruthless over the years, and I knew she would never accept sharing the family fortune. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. Her grandmother continued, but what Victoria doesn't know is that the inheritance she's fighting so hard to steal comes with a condition she can never meet. The Hamilton estate can only be fully inherited by someone who demonstrates genuine compassion and moral character. Victoria's actions in trying to destroy you have disqualified her completely. Marcus moved closer to Emma, sensing what was coming. The private investigators I hired have documented every cruel, illegal thing Victoria has done to you. When this evidence is presented to the probate court, she'll not only lose the inheritance, she'll likely face criminal charges for fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. The recording paused, and Emma's grandmother's expression softened. Emma, I know these years have been difficult. I know you've felt lost and alone, but you've maintained your integrity despite everything Victoria put you through. That's why you're my true heir, not because of bloodline, but because of character. The video ended, leaving the office in profound silence. Mitchell cleared his throat. The competency hearing is tomorrow at 9 a.m. With this evidence, we can not only stop Victoria's attempt to have you declared incompetent, but we can have her arrested for what she's done to you. Emma looked at Marcus, who'd been quietly absorbing everything. What do you think? I think, Marcus said carefully, that you need to decide what kind of justice you want. Do you want revenge or do you want freedom? Before Emma could answer, Mitchell's phone rang urgently. Mitchell here, he answered. Then his face went grave. I see. Yes, we'll be there immediately. He hung up and turned to them. That was hospital security. Victoria Hamilton was just brought to Mount Sinai after a car accident. She's asking for you, Emma. She says she needs to tell you something before it's too late. The hospital corridors felt endless as Emma, Marcus, and Mitchell hurried toward the ICU. Emma's mind was reeling. Despite everything Victoria had done, she was still her sister. The only family she had left. They found Victoria in a private room, connected to monitors, her usually perfect appearance replaced by bandages and the gray pallor of someone critically injured. "Emma," Victoria whispered when she saw her. I need to tell you." Emma approached the bed cautiously. "What, Victoria?" "I was wrong." The words came out broken, barely audible. "I was so scared of losing everything, of not being enough, that I convinced myself you didn't deserve what grandmother left you. But you did deserve it. You always did." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I destroyed your life because I was terrified that if people saw how good you were, they'd realize how hollow I've become." "I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry." Emma felt her anger beginning to crack. "Victoria!" "The accident wasn't an accident," Victoria continued, her voice getting weaker. "I was driving to your building to do something terrible, something that would have hurt you and Marcus. But I lost control of the car because I finally realized what I'd become." She reached out with a trembling hand. "Don't let me take away any more of your happiness. Take the inheritance. Be with Marcus. Be happy in ways I never learned how to be." Emma took her sister's hand, years of pain and anger finally giving way to something like forgiveness. "I forgive you," Emma said simply. "But you have to forgive yourself too." Victoria smiled weakly. "I don't know if I can. But maybe watching you be happy will be enough." 3 months later, Emma stood in the same penthouse where this all began, but everything had changed. The inheritance was legally hers, Victoria was recovering and attending therapy, and Marcus had officially called off his arranged engagement. So, what happens now? Marcus asked, joining her on the balcony where they'd shared coffee that first morning. Emma turned to him. This man who'd seen her at her lowest and chosen to believe in her anyway. "Now," she said, "we get to find out who we really are when we're not running from anything." Marcus smiled, pulling her close. "I already know who you are, Emma Hamilton. You're the woman who taught me that the best escape isn't from your problems. It's toward the person who makes you want to be better." As the sun set over Manhattan, Emma realized that sometimes the most unexpected detours lead you exactly where you're supposed to be. Thank you so much for joining me on Emma and Marcus's incredible journey. Their story reminds us that sometimes our greatest challenges become our most beautiful beginnings. If this story moved you, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you thought of Emma's transformation. Your support means the world to this channel, and I can't wait to share more amazing stories with you soon.